Hey everybody, welcome to Know Your Role. This is basically the RPG part of Studio WGS. Now, I've been playing role-playing games, I want to say for as long as I can remember, but I actually do remember. So, the first time I was introduced to a role-playing game was in 1998, 1997, I think. I was in boarding school and one of the seniors, we were talking about, fantasy and stuff like that, and he because in the local paper there was this actually a column too that was for gaming column. So what he did was he brought me to his dormitory. um yeah, this could not end well, but never mind. He brought me to his dormitory, and in his locker he brought out a box. Now, up to this point, I had heard about role-playing games. I had seen modules, in the newspaper and stuff like that, but I never seen one up close and touch and feel. But here it was, in my hands, this red box, which, um, well, it was something, man. It was definitely something. So he let me look at it, and I don't think my life changed after that. After that fateful day, I would go through my dictionary and I'd look for words, and I'll highlight all the words that had some fantasy, thing to it, like druid or like goblin. And I was using the dictionary as sort of like to enrich my my fantasy world in my head. Um, because when you're in a boarding school in Malaysia, in the mid 80s, man, there was no place to go. They weren't any gaming stores. They were comic stores, but they weren't any gaming stores. There was no place to get it. The only time you could actually get or feel, or touch or even see something close to something gaming was in the I think it's Previous magazine, that the little thick book that comic stores would have, and you could go through this. In fact, shout out to Byron, who used to send me, he used to tear out this pages from the Previous magazine and fold them up and mail them to me, so I actually have like some gaming stuff to look at. So yeah, but this video isn't about me and gaming, role playing. I can probably do another video about that, which will probably be a repeat of this story. But what we're gonna do today is we're gonna have a look at the red box set. Now, a few years after seeing the box set, I managed to get some money together and actually got the set on my own. So yeah, and it survived. Now, this is the 1983 set. As you can see, it's got TSR on it. It doesn't have wizards. It's got it's like totally banged up. It's got like tape. In fact, for it to be presentable for this video, I actually like taped up the it was just broken, man. It's all broken, but yeah, I fixed it up so it looked nice in the video. So there you have it. That's what it looks like, and this is what the back of the box looks like. Now, as you can see, the budget wasn't there for a color, so the back of the box is black and white, and it shows you the Mensa books. I'll get to that in a bit, in black and white, right there. So whenever you talk about Dungeons and Dragons, they talk about, when they say red book, they mean this one. It's been redone. Actually, over here it says it's been redone like 1974, 77, 78, 81, and this is the 83 one. This is the 83 version. So yeah, so right. So that's actually, there's also I actually have the other book as well. I need just to find it, and then I'll show it to you as well. Not the iconic red book, but the other Mensa book. So this is Basic Rules Set 1, Dungeons and Dragons. If you'd like me to do videos on role-playing games, too late. I'm already working on some. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, and we'll get to it. Now, the first thing there you go. The first thing you'll see in the box is you'll see this. This is the player's manual, right? So the cover is the same. Now we're gonna look inside this player's manual. So yeah, let's look inside the player's manual. All right. So here's the player's manual. Now let me before that I just want to read this for you. It says here in the box like this game requires no game board because the action takes place in the player's imagination with dungeon adventures that include monsters, treasures, and magic. Actually, you know what? Yeah, there you go. Right. So the red book. This is the player's manual. Read this book first. So it starts off with the forward or preface by Frank Menzer. Now, if you don't know who Frank Menzer is, he's the person who helped revise or get the book ready for there you go, he's revised by Frank Menzer for Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, the Dungeons and Dragons done by Guy X and Dave Arneson, but yeah. So you got the table of contents like the preface. Now here's where it's kind of interesting because you gotta understand prior to this there was no such thing as well there were, but it was in infancy in Dungeons and Dragons was in infancy, and this is about the time when it broke into the sort of mainstream. So you got the first section is learning how to play Dungeons and Dragons, or learning how to play Dungeons and Dragons games. So they're already saying that role playing games are Dungeons and Dragons games. So I thought that was interesting to know. Yeah, so you got your first adventure here. It gives you already your stats very, very quickly for it to look through. Now what is really, really nice is it actually helps you get to know your character, from zero. So notice that they didn't start with the character generation, they just started straight into the adventure, right? So again, this is the reason why I really like this version of the Dungeons and Dragons set. The joy was, come on, let's just play, let's just get into it, right? So yeah, so it talks about your charisma and how you use charisma, and a bit of saving throw here. But here's the other thing. All the art here is black and white, yes, but it's all Elmore's art, which is great. I think he was credited here. Jeff Easley and Larry Elmore. So all the classics, man. This is like the greatest hits, all the classics right here. So you got, yeah. So you learn how to do saving throws, alignment. Alignment was they talk about it very, very early. I remember doing alignment during this time, and you're extremely strict, super strict about it, right? There was no, what if you played it the way the way you rolled it, or the way you set your character up. So yeah, it slowly guides you through the process, right? What you've got, magic items, normal items, and then it tells you about experience points, which this is the goal, man. This truly is the goal in any Dungeons and Dragons game. XP. This is the first time when I saw these. This is the first time I saw these dice. When I've got this game, the first time I saw dice like this. This polyhedron dice. So it's nice that they show you what is what. So later when they want to talk about it, they can just use the abbreviations, which is great. Then it did. Next part of the book is actually a solo adventure, which I think up to this point, they showed you how to play, right? They just gave you a preface. But here's your first adventure, your first ever adventure. I know a lot of people, whom when I talk to them about like Dungeons and Dragons, they playing this brings back some memories for them. So you're immediately playing. So when you bring the player's manual back home, you're already playing. I think that's fantastic. You didn't have to wait to get 5 people together, or you didn't have to wait for somebody to turn up, for you to force him to play. You're already playing your first adventure, and you just read it, and it plays a little bit like it guides you. So, it guides you slowly how to go through the games, through your first solo adventure. And if this looks familiar to the older gamers, yeah, because these actually turned into game books, which, oh man, I have a truckload of game books, but it spawned a whole new hobbying experience. Game books. I think I want to say it started from here. Move to this. Go here, go there, blah blah. You experience, choose your own adventure type kind of thing. I should, if you want, we can actually play this, but nah, it's, you know, yeah, never mind. All right, so then you've got adventure, your combat checklist, or an adventure, just combat checklist, and it breaks it down for you. So slowly as you're playing the game, it slowly gives you information, so they ease you into the experience, right? Um, yeah, the ease in the experience, which is I think extremely important. Easing a new player into the experience. A lot of times, people who choose role playing games don't realize how difficult it is for somebody who's not enthusiastic about role playing to join you and play. So easing them into the game is the way to go. I think it's the way to go. So next up is okay. These are prime requisites. In this rulebook, prime requisites are a thing. What it basically is, it gives you bonuses. Like, it's basically bonus adjustments to XP. So, like fighters will have a strength, prime requisite and stuff like that. Yeah, and then we go into the characters. You got the cleric. You got your saving throw table. So each of the characters have their own saving throw table. And I quite like the fact that each level have names for it. Like, so if you're level 0, you're just an acolyte. If you're level 2, you're an adept. If you're level 3, you're a priest. So you can actually introduce yourself. I'm so and so, the priest, right? And when you do that, people know, oh, he's level 3. You don't have to say, hi, and I'm a level 3 cleric, right? So I thought that was kind of great. Because it's all about playing that role, right? So yeah, you got special rules for the cleric. The cleric turning table. Clerics. They're so needed. They're so needed. They're the combat medic, I think. They're so needed. Combat medic priest. Combat medic priest, yeah. They're so needed. But sometimes when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? These are the ones whom are usually the more not so gung ho characters. People who play them, yeah. Then you got a little bit of spells, which is great. So you in your character section, you got spells. So you see the different spells. You got detect evil, blah, remove fear, blah blah blah, resist cold. There you go. Next up, you've got the fighter. Usually when people play Dungeons and Dragons, you got folks who tank up, and these are your tanks. The fighters are your tanks. Again, your saving throws for the fighter. Level 0 is a veteran, then it's level 2. Sorry, level 1 is a veteran, level 2 is a warrior, level 3 is a swordsman. Later when you get the other books, the levels expand. But that is another video. I'll talk about that later. Right. So here you got creating a new character. They got a whole page of creating a new character, how to do that. If you want, you can actually can't really photos that. You could try and clean this up. I mean, you can do that now, But yeah. So it's basically your resource right in the center of the book right there, And then you got this hex page. I think it's kind of nice they put it in here. You got sample characters. Now this is great because, like, for me, what I would do is, if a new person turns up, I'll just grab one of these and just like, hey, you use this one, use this one first, That way, within like first 20 minutes, it's playing. And for me, if I get them playing soon and not so bogged down with the rules, I get them to role play, instead of like dice play. Then you got the spells breakdown. And then we get back to the next character. Next character, we got the magic user. Yeah, no, they don't differentiate, to be honest. There's just the magic user. Level 1 is medium, seer, and conjurer. For the magic user here. And then you've got different types of spells. Yeah. For the fighter, I really pity the fighter. I mean, if you were to go through this book, the fighter's just like, chop chop chop, But the magic user's got like, pages and pages of things he can do, and just, yeah. Next up is the thief, one of my favorite characters. They call rogues now. Level 1 apprentice, footpad robber. Level 3 robber. So yeah, there's a thief, and then you got your special abilities. Now the thing is, I don't know whether it's good or bad, but when we were first starting to play, you had to bring a thief. In fact, I think for most adaptations have a thief in there somewhere. Yeah, it's just kind of funny because there was a game I had much very very early when we came across a lock, and we were young, man. We're not so sure. So, and our party did not have a thief. I was at that time trying, different things, and it was like, oh no, you know, if you don't have a thief, how do you open locks, right? So there were, you got this whole adventuring party just staring at a lock. So I think that it was interesting that you got your specific ability, but yeah, open locks, and you can just bash it in. You got dwarves. Now here's interesting though, in the early iterations of Dungeons and Dragons, the dwarf is a character class, right? So you either play human or dwarf. There was no such thing as a dwarf fighter. So again, and here's where it started becoming what it started feeling like later in the books, because level 1 is a dwarven veteran, it's dwarven, then it's dwarven warden, dwarven swordmaster. It's basically taking the word, taking the fighter and just putting the word dwarven in front of it. Then you got the elf, which is the other character class. So yeah, you got the elf, and then you've got the halfling. So you weren't even a halfling. You couldn't even be a halfling thief. You're just a halfling. It's much closer to Lord of the Rings, if you ask me. It's very very much closer in that way, I guess. Then you got making up new character. They say here you roll 3 dice together and you roll it up. But let me just say there are a few ways to do this. And I mean, the first way is to roll your dice, your 3-sided dice, like 9 times, was it, for your 6 times for your stats, right? The other way to do it is to take 4 dice and roll up and remove the weakest one. The other way to do it is to roll it 9, 12 times and choose the best. There are many ways to do it, but originally they just asked you just roll it once. I know some folks wanted to play hardcore Dungeons and Dragons who they roll it one by one by one by one by one by one by one. So if it's I'm rolling for strength now, so they don't allocate it, and then I thought yeah, that's one of the ways to do it. I thought that was interesting. Then you got they lead you along the way on how to create a character. Your choosing your class happens after your die roll, right? So after you've gotten your stats, that's when you choose a character, right? Yeah, and then if you got your hit, everything's actually in this part of the book. Everything's like compiled and like put it in here, So you can actually go back and forth to different chapters, but it's nice that they lead you on. I think it should not be understated that the way this book is written is for the newbie. I love books that are written for newbies because at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, you can be a veteran Dungeons and Dragons guy of 60 years experience or 70 years, 100 years experience, right? If you can pass it on to the new guy, you're all the better for it. All the better, I think. So setting it up for the new guys is always great. And this book, I think this book, pretty much, taught me how to bring in new role players, and not to be so elite about it. Next up you got, and this is nice. They are players and not characters, so it's a bit of if you're playing, just because you're playing a chaotic character doesn't mean you have big you are. It's all the caveats and stuff like that. Then you got how to prepare, playing in a group, why, where, when, what. It's interesting. You got over here is after you play your game, right? So you've got things like divine your treasure, or during the game you got your marching orders. Again, a chit chat on alignment. The alignment discussion, at least when I was growing up, was a big thing you do. When your friend comes over, or you go for a drink, right? You're talking about alignment. People don't really talk about alignment very much these days, because it's all over the place, and they immediately say, "I am so and so," right? It becomes like it's part of their their actual character. I am so and so, but as you can see, alignment is just as important in the early Dungeon Dragon books. Yep. So you got your equipment. Going through the equipment. Encounter rules. You've got your different kinds of encounters. In the early part of role-playing games, you've got your wandering monsters, which I thought was kind of interesting. And these are all additional rules. So once you've already gotten through, the initial bits, right? These are just to add on, right? Add on so that when you get the better you get, you're ready for even more specifics. And I think from this point onwards, it just got more and more and more specific. In the early part of Dungeons and Dragons, people just you see a goblin, right? But this evolved into the goblin is 10 feet away, and the reach for your weapon is such and such, right? Yeah, adding more rules, adding more complexity, but in this version of the game, it's much more relaxed, much more relaxed. A call to join RPGA. Yeah, it's a Menzo thing. And then you got your glossary. You got your ads. Don't forget, yeah. This Dungeons Dragons was still small-ish. TSR was also a small company. So you got your RPGA stuff. You got your Dragon magazine, which I will be flipping through some Dragon magazines at some point. Stuff Frontiers and stuff like that. Yes, and then here's the character sheet. You can actually photostat it. There's a lot of photostating that was going on, back in the day. But if you don't want something so pretty, a piece of paper would do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the player's manual. Right. So you got the player's manual. That's the first book that you have. The next book you get in the set is the Dungeon Master's Guide. Sorry, the Dungeon Master's Rulebook. The Dungeon Master's Rulebook. So it says here, read this book next. Read this book next. So we're gonna flip through this book next to see what's inside. Right. Read this book next. The Dungeon Master's Rulebook. Right. This is the DM rulebook. As you can see, it already kicks off knowing that there's gonna be a whole lot of organizing here with a key. These are different symbols you can use to organize your dungeons and your ideas. Table of contents. There's abbreviations. Notice that they don't put this in the player book. So they realize that the Dungeon Master is probably going to be doing the bulk of the work, and here is when, they sort of give you all the tools that you need, right? So as you can see, abbreviations, definitions, DM's roles, what the DM's job is supposed to be, and then you've got, again, slowly guiding the new Dungeon Master through a session. A lot of folks these days, don't do this so much, so a lot of new Dungeon Masters, learn by trial and error, or what they think it's supposed to be. So with something like this, it helps. It really, really, really helps. Not everybody who wants to roll up a character or run a game is eloquent or knows what to say, right? So as you can see, a group adventure, read the following to the player. So you got all this read this, read that, encourage the players to send someone forward to examine the door. You see, they give you prompts. Okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do next. I think this is so important. This is so important. Note that you don't need to go to a class for something like this, but if more and more role playing books, just put this in. Don't think of your lead, your experienced players, but just put this in for your first player who brings back a rule book of any kind. He's already playing, he's already learning how to play, and you got to understand, a lot of times boys and girls who are playing Dungeons and Dragons did so, in a vacuum, so they did not know what was happening everywhere else. At least, in the mid 80s upwards, right? Not now when you've got zoom and stuff like that. So leading the player and helping the player is great. This is, see, like if the party decides to enter the hole in the wall, read 10. Ta-da! It's basically your choose your own adventure, but now you're leading a group. You got your level 1 dungeon, you got notes for the GM. So you immediately the book, immediately brings you in, yeah, this is your first level 1 dungeon, because for the experience of you know well, Dungeons and Dragoning, it's always the dungeons first, for some strange reason. Later, when players got more experience and got older, right, they open it elsewhere. But the classic trope is, into a dungeon, right? So yeah, you got your dungeon level 1. In fact, a lot of like the computer games all were dungeon crawls, dungeons, yeah, dungeons leading towards a dragon, dungeon dragons. So yeah, that's right. You got, yeah. So as you can see, you got the encounters. They lead you slowly, and how to end the adventure. How to allocate XP. They show you, okay, this is what you should have, and when you are helping somebody out. In the early stages, this was used so that it's easy to plan out, but this later moved into the back to dungeon or board gaming version of role playing with the hexes, each one denoting whatever, one square foot, 10 feet. Early on, people didn't really, oh, how many feet is it away? They would just want to get into playing. Later, when the details start coming in, they'll go, oh, 15 feet away, there's a left turning, right? And this is how you help, help it along. But let me just say, man, I mean, the first few games, people, the groups that play Dungeons Dragons don't really care how many feet they are away. They just want to go attack it, swing the sword, kill something. Then you got your procedures and rules, handling like alignment changes, charm spells, and complaints. If a player complains about the way you are handling something in the game, try to listen to the objection. Be reasonable. If the problem can be fixed by changing a procedure, try to work out a reasonable compromise. For example, if a player says you keep killing characters with poison, you might try using optional damage and using the optional damage system for poison. So yeah, it's the rule book's already giving you tips, on how to handle things. They don't think, oh, it didn't, the guy who bought the book knows what to do, right? Which is great. Then you got the look at deities, equipment that are listed, evasion pursuit. Basically, it's going through how to handle things from this side of the dungeon master shield, or when you're doing stuff in behind. Well, there wasn't. I don't think I can't remember if there was screens back in the day. We just used like something books, just to block it. But what happens behind the book or whatever that you used to block, right? Or the proto screens. Yeah. Then they talk about high level spells, giving some insight. It talks about languages. As you can see, it's pretty fleshed out, hoping to help the new player to tackle as many problems that he might face. And if all of these didn't help, you got questions. So you can actually send, if you can't find the answers to your questions, you may write to the creators. This is great, man. I mean, you send off a letter and say, hey, here's my questions. I think that's kind of cool. This has happened now. Now you just get an email, but nice that they open it up for letters as well. Then you got rules for retainers. And this is your dog's bodies and your people that help you out carry your loot and stuff like that. You got the talking about monsters. We tend to forget, that everything was in 2 books, right? So if you look at this, you've got this is basically the beginning of the monster manual, right? And it's all in 1 book. and it's kind of great because it breaks it down. This is how they broke down the monsters list. Like for example, they even put like a rock baboon, bandit. And it's alphabetical, so it's kind of great. And they break it down to, armor class, hit dice, move, attacks, damage, a number appearing, blah 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 blah. Now, for me, having everything in one book is great. It's fantastic, But check this. You've got like bear. So bear is like a monster that you attack. A lot of folks go in, and they're looking for exotic creatures, right? But level 1, 2, and 3, right? Bears is dangerous, man. It's just dangerous. So yeah, you got bears, berserkers, and we have the B part, and then you go to, the D part, the dragon, and you got the different kinds of dragons, different kind of breath weapons. I was going through YouTube, and man, the amount of information on dragons now is unbelievable. And if the amount of different kinds of dragons, so white, black, green is no longer it. Oh, white, black, green, blue, red, and gold is no longer it anymore. There's different types, man. So much simpler time. So we got elves, gelatinous cubes. Just there you go. Just monsters, man. Monster manual, all in. Valve. You got treasure. As you can see here, the treasure drop can be you can either use it as random, or you can you can set it up. But here's how you get treasure, because what's the point of going to a dungeon if you don't get treasure, right? It's for fame and fortune, I say. Fame and fortune. Yeah. So you got your magical items, magic weapons, your wands, some ideas, in different kinds of scenarios, types of dungeons. And then look at this. In good and bad dungeons, you could design a dungeon simply by drawing a group of circles and squares and rooms, connecting them by lines and making a list of monsters and treasures to be found. But this random design is not a good dungeon. So already talking about good dungeons and stuff like that, right? I mean, Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine would actually have like huge articles on how to do good dungeons. It's actually a hobby on its own. I know folks who create dungeons for modules. I mean, it's a thing, man. It's definitely a thing. Yeah, so you got how to create dungeons, and then you got your Wandering Monster table. This is basically your quick reference sheet. And then it ends off with the index, so you can find everything very, very quickly. That's the Dungeon Master rulebook. It's not a guide, it's a rule book. So that's the Dungeon Master's rulebook, not the Dungeon Master Guide, the play manual. So you got these two books, and then in this box I've actually have the RPGA membership. I don't know if you can see it. I'll can have a look at it in a bit to see what it is. So here's a close-up of it, of the TSR RPGA thingy. Let's have a look. So as a new member, you will receive members introduction package containing your membership card, your member's pin, and your membership certificate. How much was this going for? For a year, it's $10. For 2 years, $18. For 5 years, it's $40. Plus 1 year Dragon subscription. RPGA, yay! Yeah, and you got your application. Credit card number. Interest D&D, AD&D, Boot Hill, Dawn Patrol, Gamma World, Gangbusters. Yeah. So now you know. Yep. And then you've got in the box you have TSR's like flyer for TSR stuff. Yeah. TSR flyer. Okay, we'll look to that as well. You also get like these character sheets. These are the green ones. we actually like man, I wish I didn't touch them, but I did. You can man, you got like, this is a real throwback, because I played this so many times, and the one of the times we were staying in his house, and all a bunch of bachelor guys, and we did a game as well, and I was like, I'm not going to use paper, I'm going to use these original ones, which I shouldn't have, but I did. So you got Andrew. I wonder where Andrew is right now. Andrew's like character sheet is here. I think who else I've got? Yeah, me. This must be Mark's no, this is Mark's one, and I don't know who me is. It probably is me. Yeah, probably is me. Because we'll take turns running. Let me see now. I can't read that. Yeah, so we burned through these like toilet paper. Look at that, Big Joe. This is how long I've known Big Joe. He's got a character sheet in the Dungeons and Dragons box. Yeah, I've only have one that's untouched and virginal, but I think this is the I think it's a sample one. Is the sample one? No. Yeah, it's got stats. I'll probably have to erase it. Yeah, so you get that, and also in the set you get a crayon, and then you get some dice. So what you do is you get some dice, as you saw in the manual book, and to play. So now, if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, I think Stranger Things and a whole bunch of coverage on YouTube has made Dungeons and Dragons very, very popular again. But for me, this is a blast from the past for sure. Whenever I want to teach a new person about role-playing games, I choose this one, because I personally think Dungeons and Dragons, these red books, happen in the head. It's more imagination. I could, and it's my personal opinion, by the 3 points upwards, right? 3.0, basically back to the dungeon. So it's more, it's more board gamey, which I think has skewed the role playing experience a little bit. But again, I'm talking from a person who's actually been role playing since 1988. So I guess the way to play has changed. But for me, whenever a new person comes in, especially a young chap, or someone who's been taken over by the whole Dungeons and Dragons craze at the moment, I would definitely give them a run at this. Now, why would I do that? Simply because when you play Dungeons and Dragons, the red box, right? You don't need to prepare so much. You don't need to prepare so much. The newbie gets into the game really, really quick because it's simple. Later, of course, once you've had a little bit of a spin around with the basic set, you can actually go out and try some new rules, try some different kinds of games. But for me, when I want to introduce somebody to a role-playing game experience in the sword and sorcery genre, this one. I'm glad I still have the set. I'm glad I got to share it with you. So I'm going to go be looking through my storeroom, and under Know Your Role, we'll be just looking at rule books that I've collected over the years. I'm going to ask folks in the community if they got rule books to share, so I can show them to you as well. A lot of the games I have in my storeroom I've actually played, so it gives me it's easier for me to tell you all about it. So this is more retro RPG. I've tried some new RPGs, and perhaps at a later date, I'll probably do that. Now, here's a call to action here. If you want me to talk about how to be a good dungeon master, or how to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons, or how to prepare a game, or anything to do with the role-playing game hobby, leave a comment. Tell me what it is you want to see, and I'll do my best. Now, all I've got is, just experience from 1988 up until now. Over the last I want to say 40 years, I've actually had a chance to play different kinds of games and play with different kinds of groups. So I was thinking about doing videos on how to handle certain groups, because when later in life, like now, I've got a shop, so I've had to teach role playing games to groups or people who didn't want to learn. They're just there because their friends are there. So if you want to know my take on how to handle people like this, or my take on how to actually have a good role playing game session, leave a comment. That way I'll know, there are people who want to see this kind of videos. Yeah. At the very least, if you enjoyed this, you can buy me a coffee. Because I actually have a buy me a coffee. But at the very least, you can like and subscribe. And although this doesn't have any miniatures, you have to buy them separately. Don't forget to enjoy painting those figures.